You believe that looking for a sign is harmless, a simple glance to see if the unseen work has begun. Yet the truth is far more exact. Every time you reach out to examine the field, you disturb the very soil where the seed is taking root. You think you are merely observing, yet you are touching the sacred darkness where the harvest is forming. The moment a man asks, has it moved yet? He has stepped out of the realm where it was decreed and returned to the world of doubt. And like a child who opens the oven door too soon to see if the bread has risen, he collapses the rising. He delays the hour that was already prepared. So tonight, walk with me, for there is a law in this, a law older than any scripture, moving in silence and certainty, needing nothing from the senses to accomplish its appointed work. Once you grasp it, you will never again disturb the night in which your desire ripens. Remain with me, and I shall show you how the harvest arrives swiftly when the one who has no longer looks. Every desire has its appointed hour, and nothing in the outer world can hasten its unfolding, for the true work takes place in the deep of night where no man sees. When I speak of night, I speak of the stillness that follows acceptance, the quiet chamber where the seed is left to take root without interference. The moment you assume the end, you plant the seed, and in that sacred darkness it begins its invisible labor. But if you examine it too soon, you break the very soil that shelters its formation. Growth does not begin in light. The roots that shape the harvest form themselves in secrecy, beneath the surface, untouched by the senses. Yet man, moved by an old reflex, reaches inward and asks, has anything changed? Not knowing that the inquiry itself disrupts the stillness required for the seed to mature. He thinks he is watching over his desire, but he is pulling the sprout from the earth to see whether it has begun its work, disturbing the very process he hopes to quicken. For when the end is accepted, a state is born, and that state carries within itself the full pattern of the harvest. It unfolds according to its own inner sequence, needing nothing from you but rest. But the instant you check, you shift from possession to petition, from Sabbath to labor, and the gestation begins again. So do not regard checking as fear. See it as the hand that returns to the seed too soon, breaking the stillness in which it ripens. Leave it in its night, and the day will reveal what the night performed. There is a moment after every imaginal act when the senses grow restless, and in that restlessness the old habit awakens. You look for a sign, not because you doubt in feeling, but because the body remembers the former way of living, the way of waiting, watching, measuring the hours. And in that single motion of inquiry, you step out of the state you had established. For checking is not a question of faith. It is a movement of consciousness, a return to the posture of one who does not yet possess. The end is a place of rest, and the moment you rise to inspect the field, you have left it. You must understand that imagination responds to motion, not intention. When you assume the end, you enter a stillness, a Sabbath, a settled atmosphere in which the harvest is already unfolding. But when you check, you create a new motion, a subtle inner tilt that says, let me see if anything has begun. That tilt is a command, and the law obeys it. It forms a world in which nothing has yet begun. So the act of checking does not reveal the absence of the harvest. It produces it, for every inquiry is a seed of its own, and the world mirrors the seed you sow. This is why signs follow. They do not lead. A man who truly stands in the end has no impulse to look for proof, for possession has no such movement. The one who has received does not search the horizon. He walks in the quiet dignity of fulfillment, knowing the outer world will arrange itself in its appointed sequence. So let this be clear. Checking is not the shadow of doubt, but the motion that recreates the former state. Remain still, and the signs will find you of their own accord. Every imaginal act enters a period of silent ripening, a hidden hour in which the assumption takes on body and form. This is the Sabbath, the stillness, after the seed has been planted, where no hand must touch the soil. For just as bread rises in the quiet heat of an oven, your desire matures in the warmth of inner rest, and the rising cannot be hurried. If the door is opened too soon, the heat escapes, the structure collapses, and the labor of the night must begin again. So it is with the imaginal act. The moment you assume the end, the inner activity ceases, and the seed begins its hidden work beneath the level of the senses. Shadows form first, faint outlines, subtle movements, conditions barely perceptible to the outer eye. But these shadows are delicate. They require stillness to take shape. When a man checks too soon, he scatters those initial forms, as one who interrupts a sculptor before the figure has emerged. He believes he is looking for progress, yet he is breaking the very mold that was being prepared for him. Understand this. Nothing in your world appears suddenly. Every event is preceded by an unseen arrangement, a quiet orchestration that occurs long before the senses report it. The oven is not empty. The heat is already working. But if you judge before the hour, if you ask for signs, before the shadows have settled, you disturb the rhythm that carries the desire to maturity. So leave the act in its holy night, trusting the hidden warmth that shapes all things. The harvest is certain if you do not open the door. There is a posture of consciousness that ends all checking, not by restraint, but by possession. When a man truly assumes the end, he adopts a boldness the world cannot understand, a quiet, sacred confidence that belongs only to those who have received. This is the impudence of faith, the calm certainty that refuses to look for confirmation, because confirmation is unnecessary. The one who has does not look back at his desire. He walks with the composure of completion. To check would be to confess that he may have nothing, and that confession is impossible to the man who lives in the end. Consider the man of great wealth. He does not open his wallet every 5 minutes to ensure his fortune remains. He does not pack his pockets or count his notes in fear they might disappear. His certainty is not effort, it is identity. His rest is not discipline, it is nature. And so it is with the imaginal act. When you have taken the end as your dwelling place, the very thought of checking becomes foreign, for the one who possesses does not seek proof. He simply lives from what he knows to be his. Think of the simple act of mailing a letter. When you drop an envelope into the mailbox, you release it instantly. You do not stand beside the box, guarding it as though the postman might forget his duty. You do not attempt to retrieve the letter to make sure it is still inside. You walk away. You go home. You rest, knowing it will be brought to the one for whom it was sent. Your trust is so complete that the thought of checking never once troubles you. And yet, men trust this ordinary arrangement more readily than they trust the creative power at work within their own being. So why do you trust the postman more than you trust the unseen power that shapes the world itself? When you assumed the end, you mailed the letter. It left your hands the moment the stake was taken. To check on it, To worry over it, to inquire whether the delivery has begun, is to act as though the letter is still in your possession. It is not. It has been sent. And just as the letter must reach the one to whom it was addressed, your assumption must take shape in your world. Release it with the same ease with which you drop a letter into the box and turn toward home. This is the boldness you must learn. Not defiance toward the world, but indifference to its delays. A holy disregard for appearances, a refusal to concern yourself with the shadows that precede the harvest, for checking belongs only to those who wait. It has no place in the heart of the one who already is. Let your attitude be that of possession, calm, settled, inwardly affluent. Say within yourself, I do not look, because I have, and the world will hasten to clothe your boldness in form. Now take this with you, a simple discipline that seals the imaginal act, a practice not of struggle, but of dignity. Think of it as a fast of the eyes, a holy refusal to look for proof. For 24 hours, you are to abstain from every form of checking. No glancing at the world to see if it has moved. No searching for signs. No leaning upon the senses for reassurance. This is not resistance. It is reverence. The one who possesses does not inquire. He rests in the richness of his assumption as though nothing in heaven or earth could unsettle it. And when the old habit stirs, as it surely will, and the hand reaches toward the field to see if the seed has begun its work, perform a simple gesture. Lift your shoulders in a quiet shrug as one who says within himself, it is already done. Let this shrug be the symbol of your boldness, the outward sign of an inward certainty. You are dismissing the impulse not by force, but by the quiet power of the fulfilled state over the former one. With each shrug, you affirm possession, and the old reflex loses its power. For this challenge is not about endurance. It is about identity. When you refuse to check, you are not suppressing desire. You are declaring its fulfillment. You are acting from the end, walking as one who has no need to verify what is already his. And if you maintain this posture for a single day, the state will root itself so deeply within you that checking will feel foreign, unnecessary, even absurd. Stand in this holy indifference, and the world will hasten to mirror the certainty you embody. Now, let us go into the silence.